Hello everyone, and welcome to Let's Program with Santier. Last time, Zoom wasn't working. This time, Zoom still isn't working because I haven't done anything yet. So I was looking over kind of the logic of what I'm trying to do, and just kind of reviewing it, I think it makes sense, but what I suspect is happening is this value is not having, for lack of a better term, I need to sort of compensate by adjusting by the scalar. So I think I just need to do like divide by get zoom factor on these. This is just my guess. Whoop! I got zommed again. I was getting zommed. Yep. Caught it that time, but I was just about to get zommed again. So I'm going to try this just to see, because what I think is happening is I think the base logic of what I'm doing is correct, but because of the way that it kind of moves. Also, I wanted to kind of do math.round. It has 7 overloads, so I imagine the reason why I'm doing math.round is just to kind of compensate for floating point chicanery. Okay, so I'm gonna just try this, see if dividing by the zoom factor works or not, or if it feels like it's just like completely off base. So now if I do this, okay, that's going away from me. That should not be going. Okay, this is. I know which way to go because I have this tail. So that. Okay, that's down here. Okay. What's happening? Okay. Neither is working properly. Why is neither working properly? See, part of what's difficult about this is okay, that's clearly whatever my thoughts were with that, that's clearly not working. So what my hypothesis was, because actually, before I go into that, I just want to mark this as zoom in and this as zoom out. This is making the zoom smaller. So what I want to do when I'm zooming in is I want to make the position, is that the right? I don't know. I want to make the location that I'm doing things in. And what I might need to do is I might need to divide the y and x by the zoom factor. I might try that in just a second. But what I need to do is when I'm zooming in, I need to shrink the vector. So this should be shrinking it. And when I'm zooming out, I need to enlarge it. So I'm hoping that what I'm doing is logically sound. Control T to bring this up. Wrong zoom. Okay, so out. So you see the vector is sort of shrinking. It's also escaping from me. And zoom in, see how it's enlarging. So that behavior I think is actually behaving correctly. The problem is because of the scale is pushing it, is pulling it towards the upper left corner here, right? Because of that, it's not working quite right. And I think that effect is what's causing my problem. So what I'm going to try doing is taking this. Let's just go ahead and float zoom factor equal get zoom factor. And I'm just going to take it off here because that was clearly the wrong place to apply it. And I'm just going to do the same thing that I was doing in the other spot. And just do the I doubled up my parentheses in the wrong spot. That's okay. I can put them in the right spot. Divided by zoom factor. Let's grab our zoom factor down here. Of course, this needs to go in the same places. Why do I keep doing that? But I'm pretty sure that it's because of the wow, that was not even where I wanted that semicolon. Because of the way that the scaling operation messes with the actual position, that I need to compensate for that somehow, because I think that's what's causing the problem. We'll see if this is the right place. So zoom in. Whee! Nope. Okay. So that had the quick and apparent problem of jumping past me. Wow, and I don't even know how. Well, I mean, okay. So that see it's going. Whoop. Now right here, what you can see is that positional vector is pointing the wrong way. And now it's just overshot me completely. And zooming in is just like, I don't even know. So let's zoom out a little bit. Zoom in is pulling it in. That's incorrect. Okay, so I have horrendously incorrect behavior right now. Okay, why do I have horrendously incorrect behavior? Is this the right thing to be doing? Because what I'm trying to do is, where's the mouse move stuff? Down here. Because what I'm trying to do is, see how I divided this by the zoom factor. I'm trying to do the same sort of thing, where the idea is, I need to adjust. Oh, but that's the delta that's being applied to it. That is the move vector that I'm doing more broadly rather than the x and y. That makes sense. Okay. So the zoom factor is being applied incorrectly. How's the correct way to apply it? Okay. So let's think about this mathematically. I'm just going to have to kind of talk out on a piece of paper. So let's just use the x-coordinate. So the x-coordinate, let's say I'm adjusting it by like, I don't know, some amount. So the scale is getting applied afterwards. So what I want, oh boy, I need to think about what I want here. So when I zoom in, what I want to do is I kind of want the x to be bigger than it started as. So if I have, okay, sorry guys, this is one of those things where like thinking through it kind of requires me to like write down a bunch of math, and that's not very interesting to watch, I think. So what I'm going to go ahead and do for the moment is, because this is going to be really hard for me to actually do in a compelling way because it's not visible to you, and I'm kind of going to need to just like sit there and plot out some math and figure out what my math looks like, is I'm going to go ahead and jump to some of these other things that I needed to do with the data state. So I wanted to do stuff like adding things. So let's see, standard event tools. Okay, this adds a standard event. Right here, I'm just going to go data state equals false. And I'm just going to add a bunch of these in spots where they belong. Like down here. Data state. Yeah. New data changed. let's see. Add event timeline control. Does this need to? What does this do? This adds something to a tab page. Let's see. This is adds a standard event. This is a split time event. Okay, so I don't need to worry about that. Display relative date for split time. Blah blah blah. That's the relative thing. Okay, so I think that covers adding timeline events. Now, one of the things that's very true about the way that this is set up right now is I don't have the ability to delete timeline events. That's something that would be good to add, but I really just don't feel like building the UI for it. I kind of want to be done with this project, if I'm being perfectly honest, which is why I keep adding functionality like Zoom to take up multiple episodes. So deleting stuff, like deleting timeline events or copying and pasting, like that's all stuff that'd be really cool to add. Water break. And there's certainly some legitimacy in adding that. Like it makes it a better program to have the ability to close and it makes it a better program to have the ability to like close the or to be able to like delete stuff, to have undo and redo, to have all sorts of things like that. To have copy and paste, where you can like copy and paste an event. All that stuff would be really great. But then you have to add the ability to like select events, and you have to like, and it would be better if you could like grab an event and like drag and drop it in place and somehow have the time adjust with that, or if you could use the timeline overview to reposition events or whatever. But honestly, I'm just doing something that's kind of it has a lot of bells and whistles, but it also is missing a lot of bells and whistles, and it's just going to have the functionality that is kind of important to me to be able to have. So that's kind of the approach that I'm taking. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to replace the string name with unnamed event. And so I'm just going to kind of I think I need one more of those. And this needs a semicolon. So I'm just going to kind of finish, for lack of a better word, like updating the functionality to have some of the things that I need. Like for example, name here, the data save thing. I'm just going to implement sort of the data save stuff. I'm not going to worry about deleting events, although like theoretically it's a superbly good idea to be able to add a delete. Part of the difficulty is I have to do a bunch of GUI control and stuff, and I really don't want to worry about it. Like I said, maybe I will come back to this program and add it at some point in the future, especially if I'm using it and I find that it's something that I really, really need. But for right now, I just don't want to like worry about doing that. Just like I said, because it's a lot of additional work and I'm kind of wanting to be done with this project. So I'm just going through in places where data is getting changed, and I'm just adding stuff to mark that data has changed. So right here we have raw value. It's already a get and set. So what I actually just want to do with this is just go private int raw value equals 0 or something. get return raw value. And again, like fancier date stuff. It might be that at some point in time I'll come back to this, like I said, but I just don't have I don't have a desire to like do that right now. I don't know. I don't have a desire to kind of add delete. So when I did that, when I added that event, it should have updated that, but I know why it didn't. It does bring up this. I can hit cancel, and that doesn't do anything. I'm not going to hit yes because I'm not saving, but you'll notice that that's actually tracking properly now. The issue is I need to come in here, and I need to go data state, not date, data state. Boy, that's hard to type. Main window equals this. So if I initialize that, then when I come in here, and I've just made this more complicated work for myself, but now you'll see it puts a little asterisk in front, which tells us that, you know, it's that. Do you want to save? No. Yes would bring up the yes thing. If I add one of these guys and I go new cancel, you'll notice it doesn't new it. So anyway, that's that added. That didn't take very long at all. So that's nice. No, I don't want to save. So like I said, a delete functionality to be really good. The problem is I have to delete not only the base nodes, but I also have to go through the various controls and make sure I'm cleaning up all of that. And that's part of why I don't want to figure out implementing it. The other reason is because I just don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of use for it. I'm probably going to be like, okay, what events do I want to have happening? When do these need to be? So I'm probably going to do a little bit more pre-planning and then use this to kind of like fill out the details and keep track of everything. So for my purposes, it is okay right now. And maybe I'll add more like micro stuff later. And there's like a lot of stuff where I'd probably need to adjust things a little bit anyway, but I guess I've like added the stuff that I needed to get the save checking working. So now I'm back to the problem of this episode is 18 minutes so far, and I'm not sure how to do the zoom. I think I did that hook probably. I don't need this timeline control open. Yeah, see, a way to delete timeline events. Like that's the thing is like if I wanted to add delete, I'd have to go through a lot of stuff to be able to like, okay, what control is this attached to? Where is it? I need to remove it. I need to rearrange everything. It's a lot of work, and it's not just as simple as going into the timeline and being like, okay, well, let's just delete this event. Like, I need to get rid of the control that the event is attached to. If it's a split timeline, I need to get rid of everything derived from it, clean up all of the tabs. Like I said, it's a mess. So I'd rather, I guess, worry about this math. That's just kind of the truth of it. So that's enough excuses for why I don't want to take the time to implement delete. If you want to implement delete, you can. Like I said, if I find that I'm really desperately needing it, I'll probably add it later, but I don't anticipate it. Okay, so I have some sort of zoom amount. I'm scaling the vector. That's adjusting where it's at. But then when it's getting rendered, it's getting shrunk. So X is getting shrunk by zoom factor, which I'm probably going to start calling Z because zoom factor is a big old piece of work to write. That's what, 10 characters? Good old divide things into 4 because I play too much Magic. Or not enough Magic, depending upon how you ask me. Okay, so that... So let's just, on the base level, assume that this scaling part right here is correct. let's check things. Let's do an experiment. Let's come down here and we see our lovely scale transform code. Let's just comment that out and let's just run an experiment. Why not? Maybe I can get this done today. That would be exciting. Okay, so I have an event. So if I do this, that pulls it past. Okay, so right now what we can immediately see is that I'm having a problem where even if I'm not actually like zooming, as I get lower and lower, that's moving incorrectly. No, I don't want to save. Okay, that's I've just made some very annoying functionality for myself. I might need to start just stopping the debug. Okay, so what that tells me right away is that it may be dividing by the zoom factor is correct, but it certainly is not working the way I want it to. Okay, so right here is not where I apply this. So let's just delete zoom factor stuff and see if it's working properly without all of that. Because it's clearly not working with it. Forgot that I had it on there. Spent so long bopping around in the other areas, adding functionality that took too little time. Okay, let's not complain about things and test stuff. Okay. So now when I zoom out, that gets closer and closer and closer until it gets on top of it, and then that moves it. So what we can see right now, if I put the mouse here and I zoom, it pulls it down. If I do up here and I zoom out, it pushes it away. Right? So I zoom in. So if I zoom in on this, it pushes it up. Now what should be happening like with this, right? With this functionality, because it's being scaled at the same time, right? I'm kind of applying a translation of scale to sort of maintain its relative position. This is not currently have the scale going on, but what should be happening right now is that like this should be kind of staying on the 7, but the 7 should be kind of relatively smaller. So what that is telling me though is, see, the vector between them is being properly scaled. It's getting longer when I go that way. It's getting smaller when I go this way. So the sole problem that I have right now is that I need to adjust the root position. No, I don't. Based on the zoom factor, because the root's position is getting properly updated in finger quotes that you can't see. But the way that it's like getting moved needs to account for the zoom factor. And I need to figure out how it needs to account for it. That's the difficulty that I have right now. Because like right here, what I'm doing is I'm accounting by like the amount that I'm adjusting it. But that was A, little fiddly as I recall. And B, it's having certain precision issues. So what I really want here is to think about what's happening with the scaling. So if I want to... I may not... Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Here is what I am thinking. I might be wrong. I'm going to, for the moment, take this bit that I'm doing. I'm going to comment it out. Because what I'm thinking of doing... Oh, no, that's actually a terrible idea. Excuse me. I just had a really bad idea, and I decided I didn't need a bad idea. I was thinking about having the scale or having a translation based on the location of the mouse. But I just realized as soon as you move the mouse around, it's going to like squabble. It's going to kind of move the scale around, and that's just not what we want. Okay, so if I'm adjusting where I'm drawing it based upon compensating for the scale, I think would it be best to I'd have to perform a bunch of transformations to get it. What I'm mentally thinking through is if it's better to try to interpret this as the center of the screen as being 0, 0, so that way when it's up there, it's in a negative position. So that way it's basically scaling either around the mouse or off of the center of the screen. Now, around the mouse has the problem that as I move the mouse across the screen, it's going to reposition where I have the that origin point. So it's going to kind of move everything around, because what we're kind of doing is you can't actually scale a point. You're scaling a vector. So if I want it to be kind of like if I have it off of the middle of the screen, like I have to kind of reconfigure how I'm doing a lot of my math. Or I need to kind of do a bunch of math to kind of figure out how I can reconfigure the position. But what I might be able to do is, let's see, because what's happening is it's doing there. If it was off of there, it was off of the center of the screen, would that fix the problem? I'm not sure. I'm legitimately not sure if it would fix the problem or not. And I'm not actually sure how I'd want to go about trying to do that particular thing either, if that makes sense. This turns out to be a little bit more of a complicated mathematical problem. And part of what's making it a little bit complicated is I kind of would like need to figure out how I need to kind of approach it, because this is a very different. If I theoretically have this image inside this window and I'm scaling it, that pulls everything that way. Now, if I have it over here, I shrink it, that pulls everything over there, and if I enlarge it, that pushes everything away. That's what I'm trying to do with the one thing, by the way, is I'm trying to have the origin of the scale be around the mouse with the translations I'm doing above. But when I'm drawing it, because it's getting shrunk, all of the positions are going goofy. Really what I want is I don't want the root position scaled. So if I have this and it's getting scaled, how can I unscale it? Well, I need to move everything. So I do need some sort of transform. Yeah. So what I need to do here is I kind of, the origin needs to be it's like root x root y times 1 minus the zoom factor. Root, wow, that's not how you spell root at all. Root.x times 1 minus zoom zoom amount. Call it zoom mount here and zoom factor elsewhere, so I confused myself. Times 1 minus zoom amount. Build started, loading symbols. So what my thought process with this here is the zoom amount shrinks it. If I add the amount that it's not being opposite the amount that's being shrunk by, it should keep the X and the Y in the logical same position. That's what my thinking is. Because that needs to function as the origin. This X and this Y need to function as the origin to the entire timeline. That's what they actually are, right? It's the origin of the timeline. So I'm moving that origin around. So my goal with this is to undo the moving of the origin by the scale. So that way I'm kind of like positioning everything according to that. I don't know if that's making sense or not, but if this works, I mean, it might not. I might need to try. Like, if this doesn't work, I'm going to try moving the translate transform to the other side of the scale transform. Because the order in which you do matrices matters. And I just don't remember which way I want to do it. It's easy enough to trial by error it anyway. Okay, so that's... Okay, so that's kind of swooping. Whee! Okay, I'm going to try putting it on the other side of the scale. No. Because that was like kind of half working, and then it was really not working. But yeah, the idea is that I'm compensating for how much the okay, so that's going well. Hey! Hey, what do you know? That is fantastic. Whoa. That is aggressive. Okay, so there's two things that I want to do here. The first one is get rid of these lines. I don't need them. That was the line, right? Yeah. Draw a line. I don't need to draw these random lines. I don't need point M anymore. Okay, so I draw info string, then scale, then translate and scale. Draw the stuff. Okay. So this is what I want to do here. The other thing that I want to do, and the reason why it went flying, like just straight up flying. And I know why that is when I try to move it. It's because I don't need this garbage anymore. Because what that was doing is that was trying to compensate for how the zoom was affecting my repositioning the origin. Now that I understand what's going on, now if I zoom out, it's going to get smaller, but it should stay very much so 1-to-1. And if I like zoom way out, still 1-to-1, right? Because I'm keeping the origin properly positioned. So now I can zoom in on unnamed event to where we're at 100% zoom. I can zoom out around whatever spot that I want, and then I can zoom in where I want to. If I want to zoom in around the 0, I can zoom in near the 0. So that is now working. I am super stoked by that. And yeah, super stoked by that. So that makes me super happy. Okay, so there's one other thing that I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a look at, which was the how I was calculating the last spot. Where was it? Not that far. Man, these nodes are ridiculous now, but never mind that. This whole overview functionality has been some sort of amazingly huge task. Controls, I don't need. Okay, it's inside information. Root.win. Okay, so all this does is this explicitly goes to the last node and then scales based on the major timeline not on the win of the deepest timeline, if that makes sense. So what I could potentially do here is process timeline gets me the root, right? But it doesn't get me the greatest value. What I do is I get the root and then I go through. So what I could potentially do is with process timeline down here, I could add a thing, because I should be able to get what the node is. Where's the EB? Okay, I should be able to go like EB dot date. So what I would want here is raw value plus root timeline. Okay, so the problem that I have here is that requires me to chain stuff too much. So I don't think I'm actually going to fix that particular issue. I think I'm going to go ahead and let it scale only on the main timeline, just because finding the deepest one or the lowest value is just a little bit more than I feel like is necessarily worth. Is what I'd literally have to do. Actually, I would need to kind of like find the deepest node, and that would require me to like do a bunch of like relative math and all sorts of stuff. And I don't feel like hunting through that. I feel like being done. And this episode can be shorter than the previous one, and I can celebrate because my timeline tool does what I want it to, and I am happy. And that means that I am done with this project. There's definitely a lot of stuff that could be added to it. The most notable one in my mind is the ability to delete events. That to me is probably the biggest thing, but I feel like I've accomplished a lot. I've gotten that overview thing working. I've gotten the zoom working. I was able to figure out what problems are going on there, and you can do stuff with this. So that makes me super stoked. That makes me really happy. So I'm going to conclude this episode and this project. I'm really looking forward to the next project that I have planned after this one, but you'll just have to wait and see what that is. Until then, take care, everyone, and bye-bye.